All right, well, Facebook is facing backlash again. Shares of the social media company are in the red as Needham downgraded the stock to a hold rating and warns clients about the leadership shakeup. Yahoo Finance's Dan Howley joins us now to break this down. And Howley, we already talked about how the departure of Chris Cox and Chris Daniels might be problematic for the company, but now thoughts that they're just the beginning of the exodus.
Yeah, they talk about all of these executive departures, and outside of that, they were talking in the Needham note about how the content from the New Zealand shooting ended up on Facebook and how it's essentially impossible to completely clean up Facebook of stuff like that. So I think that something along those lines, unfortunately, I don't think affects the business as much, but the executive departures absolutely do. I don't think, though, that it's going to be as... I think this is just more of what's happening, why are these people leaving, rather than the business isn't as solid as it was prior to them leaving. I think that the business is still fine. They're still going to be making money hand over fist when it comes to advertising, but I think people are curious as to what's happening with the privacy that Mark Zuckerberg wants to implement, the less public sharing, and how that'll change Facebook. And it looks like that's really where this friction came between the previous executives and the Zuckerberg regime, as it were.
So my question to you is, the bear case, at least on Wall Street, for companies like Snap was that they didn't have a foundation of strong executives to really boost the company and hold them together. The case with Facebook is they were always used as an example as a company that has a really solid foundation in terms of the C-suite and executives in the boardroom. What are your thoughts going forward? Is this really going to change up Facebook's business?
I don't think it will. I think what it really comes down to is that this is, the company has been Mark Zuckerberg's vision going forward for, since the beginning, right? He will say he wants to do something, and then everybody goes, okay, let's do that. And I think this is, the result of when people say, well, we don't want to go in that direction. We don't want to have it more private of a service. We don't want it to be less public. And I think that that's what you're seeing now. I think that, as long as they still have Sheryl Sandberg, if she was leaving, it would be a huge problem, right? Because she's really the public face of the company outside of Zuckerberg. As far as the person that's supposed to be in control, that was rocked a little bit when it came out earlier this year, or last year rather, about how Facebook kind of had its own PR firm playing a little dirty with people who were against Facebook itself. But I think that this wouldn't be as much of a problem if it wasn't, one after the other after the other. I still think they have a solid foundation. I still think they're a solid company. And I think if it was Sheryl leaving, then I would be talking completely differently.
And the other issue that you mentioned as well, content, and especially what happened after the New Zealand shooting, that's not necessarily just a Facebook problem either. No. That's something that a lot of platforms, including, we haven't even talked about Pinterest, their plans to go public this year as well.